We cross live to the nation's federal capital territory where the Trade Union Congress is holding a press conference. Let's listen in.
Everything for the past 30 years, but the Naira has been relatively stable with minimal levels of depreciation. So what has happened today that has placed Naira the way it is? So part of it is the allegation that the subnationals, state and local government, that they patronize the parallel market and that they are ready to buy the dollar at any price. A food for thought. We have been an import-dependent nation for several years. Even at a time when our crude production was relatively low and oil sold for about $10 per barrel, our Naira never ran riot the way it did in the past month. So what has changed suddenly? Number 6, clamp down on speculative trading in the foreign exchange market. Government and the central bank should institutionalize policies that will deter speculators from striving to untwist the market by allowing a +2% of official rate on their platforms. In recent times, we have seen a lot of online platforms where Nigerians exchange Naira for dollar, especially Nigerians living in diaspora. The remittance from Nigeria in diaspora, which used to be a major source of foreign exchange, has dwindled to nothing with the advent of outrageous rates on those platforms. Most Nigerians go to these platforms to benchmark rates for exchange instead of the official platforms. There should be a ceiling, as stated above, on these platforms in order to prevent them from speculators and unscrupulously profiteering. Number 7, patronizing made in Nigeria goods. Government at all levels must start promoting made in Nigeria goods. They must lead by examples, by patronizing locally made or locally assembled vehicles. They can start from there. A framework must be quickly put in place to identify the goods that are produced in Nigeria, and government must start patronizing them immediately. Number 8, strengthening the economic management team. The economic team of the federal government must be strengthened. The president must look beyond party or tribal line to headhunt the best Nigerians throughout the world who could sit down and develop homegrown solutions to these menaces. Reputable Nigerian economists and financial experts, locally and internationally, are bound to draw from. The tripartite economic management team that was set up yesterday by the federal government is commendable, but most of these people are saddled with other responsibilities and could be easily distracted, bringing a Dangote, bringing a Tony Elumelu and all the likes, and making them economic advisors. They have their businesses that they run. They have the things they do on a daily basis. They will barely have time to think about the challenges and how to advise government. The government should bring on board great economists on a full-time basis. They will work with the current team on a daily basis and review issues and profile practicable solutions to them. Number 9, time to stop following the dictates of IMF and World Bank. The federal government should henceforth stop following the dictates of IMF and World Bank to the latter, but rather develop a homegrown solution to our economic woes. The same IMF that advised the government to remove all forms of subsidy and float its currency was also the same institution that recently said that the hunger and hardship in the land have increased and that the government should do the needful. Number 9, effectively supervising the activities of banks. The CBN must develop policies and systems that will effectively monitor FX transactions and effectively supervise the movement of FX trading on all the banking systems. This will reduce excessive arbitrage that is currently obtainable. Any defaulting institutions must be sanctioned. It's a time to apply the carrot and stick approach. Number 10, curbing crude oil theft and increase investment stimulating in oil and gas wells. It is widely known that oil and gas exports have been the primary source of our foreign exchange earnings for many years. At its peak, we produced around 2.5 million barrels of crude or of crude oil equivalent per day. However, over time, this amount has drastically decreased to an astronomically low level. In January 2024, the production from Nigeria Upstream Regulation Commission (NUPRC) was just above 1.4 million barrels per day. The majority of this reduction is due to crude theft, while a good percentage is attributable to the lack of investment by both indigenous and international oil and gas producers. In order to address this issue, the government needs to instruct the industry regulator and security agencies to take immediate action against crude theft and bring those responsible to justice. Additionally, the provisions in the host community section of the Petroleum Industry Act (PIA) should be fully implemented to encourage these communities to take ownership of the oil and gas facilities. The able-bodied men from the host communities can also be enlisted as whistleblowers and work alongside the security agencies, as this has been proven to produce the best results. It is important to engage the CEOs of the IOC companies in producing subsector of the oil and gas industry in a frank conversation about what the government can do to encourage them to invest in production stimulation and enhancement. All the bottlenecks that hinder incremental production should be removed immediately, and incentives provided to encourage them to increase their respective production. This should be achieved within the next 2 months. That means the engagement with them should be done within the next 2 weeks. The reason why it should be done within the next 2 weeks is because the easiest way with which we can earn foreign exchange today is still from the oil and gas sector. That is the quickest way. So what we need to do is that government needs to sit down with the chief executive officer of these various institutions, both the indigenous oil producers and the international oil companies, and discuss with them, very frank conversation, what can be done to bring about incremental production. If today we can move our production from about 1.4 million barrels to about 2.2, 2.3 million barrels, we are going to have enough FX that will flow into the market. But no matter the level of FX we have, a market where you have powerful speculators and you are floating your currency along that line, it will never be stable. Number 12, curbing insecurity for farmers to return to farm. Concerted effort should be made to curb the state of insecurity across the length and breadth of our country so that farmers could return to farm. Several literatures abound on what government across the 3 tiers of government could do to address this. So we don't want to reinvent the wheel. On issues of security, we've made several pronouncements and we've made several suggestions. And a lot of literatures are there for government to read and learn from. The recent thought of state and community policing is long overdue, and deliberate effort must be made to conclude the necessary constitutional amendment to enable it take off in earnest. Number 13, temporary importation of food from abroad. The quest for survival is real today than ever before. Nigerians must live to see tomorrow before we could understand how beautiful a government policy is. The national pride of striving to achieving food sufficiency locally and not importing from abroad should be temporarily relaxed. Government at all levels should immediately source and purchase sufficient quantity of food items from different parts of the world and distribute to the vulnerable Nigerians. Importing food from abroad at this point will assist in reducing the hyperinflation of food that is currently being experienced locally. For example, the price of rice is above the roof today because government at all levels are chasing rice producers to buy the available rice. So when government carry their $1 billion into $1 billion into the market and chasing rice, the same rice that the middle class is also going to buy, the same rice that those that they did not put within the vulnerable group is also going to buy, the price of rice is bound to increase because you have excess demand for it. But if they allow us to manage the one we have locally here, and whenever they want to distribute rice, they import it from abroad. It is time, it is when you are well fed, when everything is going normal, then you will say that you want to be self-sufficient, that you want to produce what you eat. But this is an emergency, and government must treat it as such. TUC hereby demand that government should, as a matter of urgency, commence importation and allow importation of essential food items into the country within the next 2 weeks. Number 14, task for states and local government. State government must immediately choose at least 6 different food crops to cultivate. Similarly, each local government must identify 3 food crops to cultivate as well. Now that we are approaching rainy season, this must be done immediately in order to boost food production in the next few months. An emergency food coordination center between the federal and state government should be set up immediately to interface on the kind of crop to produce and the variety that will yield much more per hectare. The Congress leadership strongly believe that when all the solutions profiled above, before that, let me take number 15. Number 15, the Congress visited the Port Harcourt refinery about a week ago to inspect the state of rehabilitation of both the old and new refineries. We are demanding that crude production from the old Port Harcourt refinery must commence before the end of first quarter of 2024. We further demand that the rehabilitation of the new Port Harcourt refinery, Warri refinery, and Kaduna refinery must be expedited, as we shall be closely monitoring progress and work completion as scheduled in the work breakdown structure. So, a visitation was made to the refinery. You could always be told several stories. They told us that the refinery has achieved mechanical completion and that they are fine-tuning their testing processes for production to commence. But this was the story they told to us. But we needed to visit the refinery in order to ascertain the true status. So, some members of NAC visited the Port Harcourt refinery. They went to both the old, although they are in the same compound, but separated by the process platforms. They visited both the old refineries and the new refineries. The new refinery, when I say new refinery, one of the refineries was built in 1965. Another was built in the 80s. So the one built in the 80s is referred to as a new refinery, while the one of 1965 is referred to as the old refinery. So they visited both of them, and when they went through them, they spoke with the contractor, they spoke with the people that ought to know. And when they did all this, they ascertained that hopefully we should get production from these refineries soon. But for us, we are demanding that before the end of March, this refinery, the old refinery, should start production, no matter how little. Let's start from somewhere, because as they say, a journey of 1,000,000 miles begins with a step. So that is our 15, the recommendations or the proposed solution put together by the leadership of the Congress. So the Congress leadership strongly believes that when all the solutions profiled above are implemented, the current challenges will ease off within the shortest possible time. Most especially the one of bringing back the Naira exchange rate. This we know that they can fully achieve. In conclusion, we shall be submitting these documents to government with a view of engaging them immediately for onward implementation. We will be updating you periodically on progress made. Thank you so much, gentlemen of the press. Thank you so much, comrades. Long live TUC. Long live trade union movement. Long live the Federal Republic of Nigeria. There is victory for us. There is victory for us. In the struggle for our members, there is victory for us. Forward, ever backward.
TUC President Festus Osifo addresses the media where he gives recommendations on what he believes can be done to boost the standard of living, revamp the economy and boost security in the country within the next 2 weeks. Some of the suggestions included revamping the refineries, establishing state police, amongst others. These recommendations, he said, will be submitted to the authorities for further dialogue.